Up to Alsace. Alsace is a wine-producing region up in the northeast corner of France, right there on the border between France and Germany. The region is very famous for producing Riesling, Pinot Gris, and Gewürztraminer. Those are sort of the big grape varieties that are produced up there. They also make wine from a grape variety you have in the glass right now called Pinot Blanc. I happen to absolutely adore Pinot Blanc. It's one of my favorite grape varieties. But I always describe Pinot Blanc as sort of the red-headed stepchild of the grape world. It really doesn't get the respect I think it deserves. Yes, Shirley. Yeah.
他们都知道啊，他在美上的啊，他们也知道他啊。他刚有说还有1队没来，大概就是他们。然后今天有4队，我就想是我听错，果真。第一排耶。所以我一开始听他说有4队，我心里一直在想这4队是谁？难道我听错？我到底英文不好？ 是蛮好喝的，不要喝，全身都是哎，这是第1回哎，这第2回。你这配子吃啊，我就等。你第1个就已经喝掉了。配子吃啊，你不一定要喝掉，小乖。我觉得那个很好喝啊，我觉得好喝就会喝，我不觉得不好喝。那是什么？第1个是什么酒？
Okay, so back to Pinot Blanc, which is what you have in the glass right now. It's very rare that you will find wine writers waxing poetic about this particular grape variety. If anything, it just has inherently to do with the way that the grape variety tastes. Pinot Blanc is never sort of a blockbuster style of wine, unless they use Pinot Blanc to make this really unctuous sweet style of dessert wine, which this particular producer is very famous for doing. Pinot Blanc always gets this sort of bad reputation because when you have it on its own, very often a lot of them really don't have a huge amount of flavor to them. What I mean by that is, you know, if you go through and you taste through a bunch of Chardonnay, Chardonnay has generally a pretty distinctive personality to pick up on, you know, depending upon where it comes from. If you're dealing with Burgundy, you know, Chardonnay will have a fair amount of minerality to it, get that spiciness to it. If you're dealing with Chardonnay coming out of California, big, rich, you know, bold flavors to it, very often a good fair amount of oak. Pinot Blanc is always sort of a subdued type of wine style. And to me, Pinot Blanc is a grape variety that definitely needs food. It's definitely much more of sort of a conversation type of wine. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times with the way the wine critics end up doing their ratings is they'll sit down like, okay, today I have an hour and a half when we're going to go through 20 wines, then we're going to take a half-hour break and we'll go through 20 more. So they line up all their glasses and they've got a short period of time to spend with it. And very often what happens, I think, as far as wine criticism goes, is the stuff that's big and bold and rather boisterous, jumping out of the glass to kind of overshadow the things next to it, those are the wines that end up getting the scores. Now, you know, and those wines are generally very delicious, you know, but very often it's that type of wine that makes me I find very difficult to pair up with food. And the analogy that I always use is, you know, when you walk into a party that's already kind of going on, and it's been going on for a while, and you walk in and there's a guy who's naked with a lampshade on his head standing on a table, screaming at the top of his lungs, you know, like, you know, you probably walked into kind of a fun party, you know, but the thing is, do you want to have dinner with that guy for 3 hours? And that's very often where I feel about these wines that are so big and so bold, you know, that they're just so invasive and big and full of flavor, and they don't really leave room for the food. Whereas when you're dealing with Pinot Blanc, it's much more of a conversation. You know, the Pinot Blanc will listen to what the food has to say, then go back to the wine, and then the Pinot Blanc will open up and you'll get a different sort of flavor profile. And I love the sort of mutability of this particular grape variety. The other reason why I really like Pinot Blanc, especially this time of year, is Turkey is inherently really difficult to pair up wine. Inevitably what people always do is they reach for a bottle of Chardonnay. But Turkey has this enzyme that does not play particularly well with Chardonnay. It always makes Chardonnay taste a little bitter and the finish on it kind of short, just the nature of the meat. Whereas Pinot Blanc that you can get, when you pair it up with Turkey, you don't have that enzyme interacting with the Pinot Blanc grape. And when you start pairing up Pinot Blanc with food, it does pick up a richness to it. It picks up sort of a bolder, you know, richer, fuller flavor, like you would expect a Chardonnay. You know, so what I always kind of also describe Pinot Blanc as not only being the red-headed stepchild that doesn't get the respect it deserves, is it's very often sort of a poor man's Chardonnay. as soon as you start to pair it up with food. So when the food comes out, definitely try it. Try it now. Nice sort of big, a little bit of a rich mouthfeel to it. There's good sort of nutty flavor to it, but then wait for the food. Have a couple bites of food and then go back to the wine, and you'll see what I mean. There's this wonderful interplay of Pinot Blanc when you pair it up with food that I just absolutely adore, and it works great with turkey. So I hope you enjoy.
Excuse me?
Yes.
What would you recommend for like a red to go with turkey?
Well, the thing is, it's the Thanksgiving, like the traditional Thanksgiving table is always difficult because there are so many things that go along with it. You've got, very often you've got squash, you've got stuffing, you've got cranberries, you've all these things. If you sort of do your wine pairing based around kind of what the stuffing is, that's generally sort of a good way to go. I like turkey with, obviously Pinot Noir is generally pretty nice with turkey if you want to do red. Gamay is a great variety with turkey, which you find down there in Beaujolais, but not to be confused with Beaujolais Nouveau, which is what comes out at this time of year. With Beaujolais Nouveau, it's the youngest wine that's available for release out of France. I think start to finish it's like 44 days or something. So they released the Beaujolais Nouveau, which I think they did last week or 10 days ago. It's always, very often Beaujolais Nouveau is very light, fruit forward, a little bit spritzy. It's okay. But if you move into like serious Beaujolais, where you've got that wonderful Gamay grape variety, you get all sorts of sort of dark berry flavors to it. And the good ones have a little bit of minerality that I think work really well. Sort of the hot, cool thing to do is, it has been for a while, is Zinfandel, because very often that's American, it kind of sticks with that sort of American Thanksgiving theme. It'll go with the cranberries, it'll go with the stuffing, it'll go with a lot of different things. All the time, I think Zinfandel kind of overpowers the flavor of the turkey. But, if you've got turkey gravy and you're eating with stuffing and cranberries and all that other stuff, and making sort of a little mishmash on your fork of all these flavors, Zinfandel works pretty well too, which is why we're going to do it with our main course.
All right, thank you.
And if you're doing duck, just drink Pinot Noir.